Jimmy Kimmel Jimmy Kimmel canceled. That's right, folks. And today I'm going to show you exactly how and why Jimmy Kimmel is one of the most hypocritical, swang biao, fake-ass comedians you have ever seen.
Fake. Phony, fake.
And although you could call it cancel culture, real talk, homeboy should have been fired a long time ago. Because what happened to Jimmy is less cancel and more FIFO. So, 准备在爆米花分新手工坊, and I highly recommend the truffle toffee flavor because it is oh so delicious. Because 事情真的很大条咯。Alright, so a lot of our Taiwanese viewers might not really understand the cultural significance of late night talk shows. So let me give you a brief background and then you'll fully understand why and how Jimmy Kimmel got canceled.
Do you get sensitive about the fact that people say he'll never take a serious controversy?
Well, I have an answer to that. I said, now, tell me the last time that Jack Benny, Red Skelton, any comedian, used his show to do serious issues. That's not what I'm there for. Can't they see that?
But you're not.
Why do they think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues? That's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And you know, strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should as an entertainer.
Now, in America, late night talk shows typically air from about 10:30 p.m. to as late as midnight. Because after watching a lot of serious and depressing shit that is the news, people just want to unwind and need something lighter to go to bed to. And from about the 1950s to the early 2000s, watching late night talk shows became a big part of American culture. I spent the majority of my teenage years growing up on Conan O'Brien. Now, a typical late night talk show features the host in a suit, who was usually a comedian before he got the job, and he talks a bit of bullshit, pop culture, interviews some celebrities, and invites a musical guest on or two. His ultimate job is to make people smile and laugh before they go to bed at night. Now, the person you just saw is the legendary Johnny Carson, who is considered the founding father of modern late night talk shows. And even 40 years ago, his mantra for late night talk show hosts was that they should not joke about serious matters. This is a guy whose show lasted more than 30 years, and to this day, no late night talk show has ever been more successful than Johnny Carson's. More importantly, he was humble as believing that the entertainer's most important job was to entertain, and not to think that they are so important because they entertain folks that they can try to influence them. Modern day Hollywood celebrities could have learned a little bit from Johnny Carson.
I think done for in American entertainment as late night ratings are plummeting, and first on the chopping block seems to be Stephen Colbert. Now his show has just been announced to be canceled. It is done in May of next year. It will be their very last season.
Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May.
And CBS has gone as far as to say they're not even going to be replacing Stephen Colbert, just The Late Show in general is going to be gone.
Since the early 2010s, fewer and fewer people have been tuning into late night talk shows. In fact, a show which target audience is 18 to 49 tends to be more watched by people over 50. And since the show pretty much hasn't changed its format and the development of cable and the internet, people have a lot more choices than before. And as a result, every late night TV show's ratings are absolutely terrible. And when it comes to Jimmy Kimmel, his audience has dropped to less than half in just 10 years. But you know what? That ain't even the worst part.
Jimmy Kimmel impersonated NBA legend Karl Malone using dark makeup. He also donned blackface when impersonating Oprah Winfrey during The Man Show. These instances drew heavy criticism.
Now, Jimmy Kimmel was previously one of the hosts and creators of The Man Show, which was an extremely 政治不正确 TV show. Yet by today's standards, at least pre-Trump anyway, this show would have never been able to air. And Jimmy Kimmel co-wrote, co-founded, and co-hosted this TV show.
The Man Show ends with girls on trampolines, which is exactly what it sounds like. And I sat through each and every one.
Now, from a feminist perspective, this show objectified women to the max and was full of what they call the male gaze, designed to satisfy male viewing pleasure to the maximum.
Ladies, unite against suffrage. End the suffraging now. We're trying to stop the suffrage and the suffrage of women in this country. Sir?
I would be happy to sign.
Thank you very much.
Now, this segment is straight up mocking women's right to vote, which the official term is suffrage. But real talk, in everyday American English, we don't really use that term. That's more reserved for the elite echelon of the upper class. us. But I'm sure you might have noticed that the word suffrage sounds a lot like suffer, which is exactly what Jimmy Kimmel was relying on to do this segment. The fact that most women in the video hear suffrage, but think suffering. And as a result, the entire bit mocks women by asking the uninformed ones to sign a petition to abolish women's suffrage, claiming that they don't even fully understand the meaning of what they fought for. Now, by modern standards, regardless of 左派 or 右派, this would be considered disrespectful as fuck.
Jimmy's first wife. She gets shit on often. And I commend her supporting her husband, doing whatever for the show, but I just end up feeling bad for her. Jimmy talks up her segment, The Wife's Perspective, for the end of the show, where she'll basically condemn his antics, and it's predictably cut off. That's the joke. It becomes a running gag, and this is where we start to creep into a big debate about the show, because I'm starting to take some offense to a part of this show, the treatment of Gina Kimmel on there, even though I know this has all been agreed to. If you watch The Man Show, you will hear these two on women, mock women, and so forth. But the show's meant to be comedic, and according to Jimmy and Adam, it's meant to be satire.
Meant to be satire. Consuming women, mocking women, and then defending it as comedy. Meant to be satire. 我好像在台湾有听过这句话欸。
Maybe?
But comedy is comedy after all, and even in modern times, I don't think The Man Show needs to be canceled, because there's a lot of different audiences who have different tastes, and if you don't like it, don't watch it. However, through The Man Show, we can very clearly understand how Jimmy Kimmel felt about women, and how he viewed female behaviors as amusing. But that was when he was young. He's grown up, he's got some kids, and he should respect women more. He should consider The Man Show inappropriate and distance himself from it. Right?
If you watch this series with, pun intended, 2020 vision, you might cringe, you might be offended, you might even demand for these two to apologize 2 decades later, which ultimately brings us to the massive discussion of cancel culture. This show could not exist today, but some people would even disagree with that statement. In fact, somebody that disagrees with that is Jimmy Kimmel himself. He says the show would do even better today, because aside from the people who are outraged, there's people who are outraged by the outrage.
Unfortunately, Jimmy Kimmel believes that as long as there are viewers, whether angry or happy, as long as they're watching his show and talking about him, be it shit talking or good talking, it's all good.
When it comes to Kimmel, Disney CEO Bob Iger recently said he understands where the host is coming from on political issues, but added his show is meant to entertain people, and he should be very careful about his message from a business standpoint. But Kimmel doesn't seem to care about Iger's business, and appears to welcome the loss of viewers, while at the same time suggesting he is unable to see the point of view outside of his Democrat bubble.
Like 3 years ago, I was equally liked by Republicans and Democrats, and then Republican numbers went way down, like 30% or whatever. And, you know, as a talk show host, that's not ideal, but I would do it again in a heartbeat. But if they're so turned off by my opinion on healthcare and gun violence, then I don't know. I probably won't want to have a conversation with them anyway.
Critics have condemned the double standards of Jimmy Kimmel, with some calling him a coward for drawing a red line on healthcare and gun control, but staying silent on the systemic culture of sexual abuse and misogyny in Hollywood, which he helped promote and create.
So from a host who entertain others by mocking women with sexual discrimination, to someone who openly discusses serious issues like gun violence and healthcare and even the vaccine, and then on the other hand criticizes Republican policies from a very liberal stance. This has got to be the most swung piao, maybe even multi-dimensional piao person I have ever seen.
Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
The president later suggesting broadcast licenses could be taken away by the FCC. This all began Monday after Kimmel said this during his opening monologue.
The MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
After criticism from conservatives, Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, threatened action against the network.
Disney needs to see some change here.
Hours later, Nexstar, which owns more than 200 local TV stations nationwide and is currently seeking FCC approval for a merger, announced it would stop airing Kimmel on all of its ABC affiliates. Soon after, ABC said it was suspending the show.
So now that you understand American cultural context and Jimmy Kimmel's background, looking at his recent statements regarding the most serious political violence in America in the past 30 years, he completely failed to condemn those who mocked Charlie Kirk's death. And with the cold hard facts already in and confirmed that Tyler Robinson leaned left as opposed to his MAGA-friendly family, Jimmy blatantly used misinformation to mislead his audience, leading to ABC canceling his show. This is more than cancel culture, yo. This is corporate damage control.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes, he's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
Now, my opinion, the way I see it, is this is actually much, much worse. Because what Jimmy did here is he actually mocked Charlie Kirk via Trump by portraying Charlie as a goldfish, a pet, Trump's pet.
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets.
But what really confuses the hell out of me is how many of the 极端左派 actually support feminism and at the same time are defending Jimmy Kimmel's right to free speech. You know, the guy who created the Man Show? That's like chicken supporting KFC.
You're so dumb.
Simply put, Jimmy Kimmel was canceled for shit ratings and lying to his audience. If lying is free speech, then being canceled is a consequence of it. And his bosses and even the OG talk show Oh Xiang warned Jimmy about getting too big a head and getting too serious and political on talk shows. With his show already going to hell with the ratings, he just gave his boss the perfect excuse to send him packing. So let this be a lesson from good old Jimmy Kimmel. To all chickens, don't support KFC, yo, but if you happen to be one of the ones that do and can't swallow the reality, keep your mouth shut. Otherwise, the boss might have you for dinner.
And now we know what to do next time.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!